So Steve, what were the most significant security occurrences over the last 12 months? Can you walk me through what that looks like from your perspective?
Well, KB, I don't think a lot has changed in the last 12 months as far as, there's still been the same amount of data dumps that has been going on for forever. I've noticed people's awareness seems to be getting a little bit better. However, people are still reacting to the fear porn a lot more, and they're still doing that rather than doing a rational risk analysis and thinking logically about how a risk may affect them. So it becomes more of a sales pursuit for people to utilise to actually try and sell you another product, if you know what I mean.
No, absolutely. So after you saying that, where do you see the shift in the sort of coming into the new year and where security is at for the foreseeable, I guess, next 12 to 18 months?
Well, I'm not going to be like the wizard that goes, I know exactly what's going to happen next year, because I don't. And I think the thing that we don't know about security is probably the most important thing that we need to be thinking about rather than what we do know, because for example, it's like the databases that have been compromised that we do know. Well, that's great, we know about them, but the ones we don't know, because that's just the tip of the iceberg. So the ones that we don't know how many people or who's been compromised and what databases have been compromised.
Of course.
And that is where anything apocalyptic could happen anytime around the corner. And the other thing is, we have the government now trying to change legislation on us that are trying to backdoor the encryption, and that's another thing that we can say if that happens. If we have every single police station in the country being able to access your mobile phone or backdoor the encryption, then there's no saying every other cyber criminal in the world, and I'm saying the police are cyber criminals, but every other person can't access that same backdoor encryption no matter where you go with the mobile phone, and therefore it becomes a risk to anyone really, and even businesses, and people will lose trust in the Australian private sector when that happens as well. So this is a much bigger thing than we think. The crypto wars, it's not the first time this has happened. If you look at the Clipper chip, that's an example of a time when the NSA attempted to backdoor encryption back in the early 90s, and it didn't work, and there are a number of reasons for that.
What are the latest movements and trends from your personal analysis on the security industry?
Well, I think there's a lot more salespeople out there trying to push products on everyone. Products that aren't really revolutionary in any kind, but just copying other people's products, and they're trying to push those out there. And this is across the board. So now there's 100,000 different password vaults, for example. And because cybersecurity's become such a buzzword, everyone's jumping in and trying to cash in it. There's people coming in from all these other industries that may not necessarily be either qualified or experienced in this industry to come and market these things to you and understand why they're marketing these things to you. So I think that's a big thing. Again, more database breaches are happening every day, and more people are getting compromised from things that we don't know about. And it's not things that we do know about, it's what we don't know that's really the big problem, and that's going to be the most problematic thing. But what I can say is that what we're talking about now in the legislative area is trying to backdoor encryption for mobile phones and things. Now, if that happens, we can say with a little bit of certainty, then that is going to cause a lot of issues for everyone out there, because we've seen with My Health records what the problems we've had with that, the security issues. We've seen what happens with the census. Now, encryption has a purpose, and that's to secure data. So if we have every single police station in the country actually being able to access that data, then that means that everyone else around the world who tries to exploit that may not necessarily know about. For example, like I was saying before, we don't know about when these things get compromised, and sometimes it can take years. Knowing that these issues exist with backdooring encryption, and how easy it is for cyber criminals or people with an ulterior, a different side type of motive to get around these things just by using their own encryption, it really is like it's even going to cause problems with our private sector as well, because international organisations, companies, etc., are going to lose faith in storing their data in Australia and doing business with Australia, because everywhere you talk on a mobile phone is going to be compromised. Now I'll give you an example. So let's say there's a company executive who's about to do some massive deal or something in Australia with an international organisation. Now you don't know who may be listening into that phone call conversation, because now it's being listened to, or there's a third party intercepting it, or the encryption is tapped in some way. So that way there's a way for foreign espionage to actually exploit that, to manipulate the stock exchange, for example. And that's just one example. I can think of many different types.
Do you see a movement on companies being compromised now, whether that's a small or a medium-sized business, rather than the guys at the enterprise level?
No, I don't think that that's at all an issue for hackers, whether you're an enterprise or a business. The hackers will attack everyone. They don't care. They will attack anything with an IP address. Anything that's online will get attacked. You see it happening when you connect it to the internet. If you use an IDS or an intrusion detection system, you can see all of these attacks happening. You can look at the logs on your server and see people trying to log into stuff and brute force every single service that's listening on the internet. So this has nothing to do with how big or small you are. It happens to be with whether or not you're connected. If you're transmitting a radio signal, you're vulnerable. You're going to get attacked. Everyone is a target. Everyone's going to be attacked because hackers don't care. It doesn't matter what category of hacker they are. They will try in some way exploit you, depending on which category they are. So don't think that you're only going to be targeted by. We've got to put this in a general category when we look at it this way, because we're looking at two completely different, scalable, different types of targets here. So yeah, everyone's a target, and I don't think we should at all look at it as if there's going to be moving from one to another. It's everyone is going to be attacked, and that's not fear porn. That is absolutely 100% accurate. I've seen it happen because I watch these sorts of attacks happen all the time live and try and mitigate them. So this is not fear porn at all. This is coming from someone who really knows how these things operate. So.
What measures can businesses take, whether it's small, medium or large-sized businesses, to actually help mitigate some of the risks and threats that are out there?
I think we need to be proactively raising awareness, because awareness really is key to a lot of this stuff. We need to think about every single business transaction out there rather than just like looking at just business as a one big thing, because security vulnerabilities can happen all over the place. The other thing is we need to be looking at implementing its security from the inception of every project, not just a reactional thing, which is, people say that a lot, but it's very important, because a lot of the time I get people come to me, oh, I've just been hacked, or we're just getting a penetration test because the other company wants to know we're secure. But this isn't just a top-down approach, and a lot of the time I hear it's a top-down approach, it's a top-down approach. Well, that's not the way it is. This is about every individual out there, and we're all in this together. It's not just about the top person telling you what to do. You've got to think about this and really put that thought process into an action and make it an actionable thing rather than just thinking about it. Because I find in security, a lot of people, they say to do this, they don't always practice what they preach. So it's got to be thinking about that, becoming aware, but also putting that into an actionable thing. So you've got to actually, it's like having policies, but people not following policies. It's exactly the same thing with security. You've got to make it an actionable thought process rather than just knowing that it's an awareness thing, you know what I mean?
What tools, methods and advice would you have for people to actually have better security?
Well, I think you've got to start from the people, because the people and their awareness and how they respond to things and what they do and their actions is really the focal point of
Sorry, can I just interject there for a second? Awareness. Now, a lot of people in the industry speak about this, but if you were to be in charge of the security awareness field or division, what would you personally do to make sure that awareness is actually relevant for people? Because there's a lot of talk about awareness, but what are people actually doing about it, and what would you do about it?
Well, awareness training is one thing, but I think you need to put in some more exercises rather than just like training, like going and watching videos and things like that. People need to be actually taught to actually put that thought process into an actionable response and make it a proactive thing rather than just looking at a video, or because then that's just going to go in one ear and out the other. There needs to be more proactive exercises, I think, that need to be done in security rather than just have people do awareness training and all that sort of thing. Some of these awareness courses are getting better, but again, it's not about a top-down approach. It's about everyone making themselves more secure, which therefore makes the enterprise more secure. It's not about the chief executive. It's not about the person that's the accountant or the security guy. It's about every single person raising their awareness so they're aware of these things, and they're not going to click on a link they're not supposed to click on, or enter their password into a site or whatever, or get ransomware on their computer and then pay the ransomware guy before seeking further advice on what to do, you know what I mean? So these sorts of things, it needs to be more of a, like I said, rather than just awareness training, it needs to be something that's thought about and then put into an actionable process where they actually do it. So it's not just like,
You made a point before about people just watching videos in one ear out the other. How do you think companies can actually engage people more? Because I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not really a security person, you probably don't really care much about it, to be honest. It's just part of your due diligence of working in that company. So how do you think companies can actually raise the bar and make people more engaged with security?
Well, I know this might contradict what I've just said, but at the very least, you can actually get awareness training, good awareness training that's actually out there with the your employees and your employees' families, because, like I've said before, it's not just about the employees, but it's about their families as well. Because
do you think that would motivate them more because it is attached to their families?
Well, absolutely, because their families are a target for an attacker to get in an organisation who they want to target. So it's a pivot point. If I can hack into your other partner or wife or girlfriend or whatever, then I'm going to use that as a pivot point to get into their computer and then get their details, so I can get as much information onto you, and then I'll be able to get into the
So the motivation is driven from a personal perspective, which then drives it then into a company's perspective, because these people are motivated by protecting their families, which drives behavioural change in a company. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely, and it works both ways. I mean, this isn't just about enterprises; it's about people. So it's about people, just like normal, people walking around the street. It's not just enterprises. So everyone needs to get into this and understand how these things work, because the one person that can be the weakest link in the chain, and that person could be anywhere in the organisation. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be someone working in security or someone working in the chief executive or whatever they're doing. It's everyone. So it's not just a top-down approach. It's about organisational awareness, and it's about the public awareness as well. I actually think that the government could do a lot more to actually educate people about cybersecurity.
That's an interesting point that you raised. Can you drill down a lot more on that? Because I hear about this all of the time around the government should be doing more. What's your perspective on that?
I think they could actually be spending a bit more on education. I'm really big on education. I think that's really if we could get education in healthcare, for example, I'm going off on a tangent here, but education is one of the things that is the root cause of most of the issues we have in society. And this security is just one of them. So instead of having 10 million police walking around the street, we could just spend that money on education. We could only just have 100,000 police walking around the street, you know what I mean? So rather than put the Band-Aid on, we need to tackle that from source. And I think the government needs to adjust its priorities to look at what that source issue is, and then we can get people a lot more aware about cybersecurity and how they react and respond to these things as they're happening. Because, like I said, it's not just about the organisation, and it's not just about the people and their families. It's everyone, and anyone's a target out there. So it's not just one or the other.